Next team on the list, we have the Houston Texans. For those of you just tuning in for the first time, this is where we go over every team in the entire NFL. We review the 2024 season. We go over what's happened so far in this 2025 offseason, and then we give our predictions for what we think is going to happen in the 2025 season. And the team that we are going to be talking about in this video are the Houston Texans, which in the 2024 season, they finished 10-7, first in the AFC South, second year in a row, home 5-3, away 5-4. In the playoffs, they defeated the Chargers 32-12, forced 4 turnovers on Justin Herbert after Herbert throwing only 3 all season. His defense was stifling. The divisional, they lost 23-14 to the Chiefs. They gave up 8 sacks to the Chiefs, some special teams miscues, a missed field goal, and an extra point. This was a team that everybody going into the season was extremely high on. We met that going into last year with a little bit of hesitancy where we didn't think that they would take the next step and go and win the Super Bowl like a lot of people did. I think that injuries obviously played a lot of role into that, but I also think that the offensive line was absolutely abysmal last season, so I don't think that they had any business being even winning a playoff game the way that they did. That defense is extremely special. And I think that their running game is one of the worst in the entire NFL. We'll get into that. And then they go and fire Bobby Slowick, who was kind of holding them back in the offensive realm of their team. So anything that you want to comment here on the Houston Texans last season?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of called it. Same record as they had the year before. We knew that coming into this season, they would have a little bit more difficult of a schedule. And they did. So their defense was really great. Their defense took a step up from 23 to 24. But the offensive line was really the biggest thing here. CJ Stroud and the injury. I would say the probably the worst offensive line in the NFL, and the combination of injuries that they had to their skill position groups was ultimately the reason that this offense looked the way that it did and didn't really take a step forward.
Yeah, I'm right with you. Some snapshots from last season. Offensive DVOA, they were 26th. Passing, they were 25th. Rushing, they were 27th. This offense was brutal. And if you watch the games, that correlated.
It felt like it.
They were it was the Nick Marquardt special on Madden where he rushes the ball every single time on first down, and then they're behind the sticks pretty much on second and third, and really having CJ Stroud trying to bail them out time and time again, not making anything easy on him in any way, shape, or form. And that kind of reflected that in the passing game. And I mean, their run game is brutal. And we talked about the offensive line already. On the positive side of things, their defense is disgusting. Defensive DVOA, they were third in the NFL. Points per game, 21.9, 18th. Points allowed, 21.7. That was 13th. Total offense, 21st. Total defense, 5th. Defensively, both ranked top 5 in rushing and passing. Offensively, both bottom 10 overall in efficiency and production. Offense, the bottom quartile of passing, rushing, and overall efficiency. The first thing I want to touch on, and we talked about it a little bit when we previewed the running backs, top 10 running backs list, the Texans run game. The O-line, just because the O-line that they got this season is different does not mean it's better in any way, shape, or form. Now their running back room, Joe Mixon, who's out indefinitely with some sort of injury, I think an ankle injury, I'm not 100% sure. They have Nick Chubb, which Nick Chubb seems like a great guy, but he had a devastating injury. And then Damian Pierce, and then who they take in the draft? They took Woody Marks. This running back room, this might be the worst running back room in the entire NFL. I wanted to highlight Joe Mixon because he was the starting running back last season. I don't know what it looks like for him going into this season. He was 4.1 in yards per carry, 30th out of 41 qualifying backs. Success rate, 1 in 3 carries resulted in positive EPA. That ranks 32nd. Yards after contact, he ranked 40th in yards after contact per attempt, 40 out of the 40, and then then 42nd in breakout runs, 33rd in yards per carry, 19th in rushing grade, and 24th in receiving grade. I mean, that's a mediocre lead back. That is plain. This is another fantasy situation where it feels like Joe Mixon gets like a ton of respect in the fantasy community. He just stinks right now at this point in
Yeah.
his career.
I had that same exact thing. I had Joe Mixon, great fantasy running back, bad real life running back. And I pretty much had all those same exact stats that you had, um, as far as just how bad he is as a running back in real life. Like 2.9 yards after contact is one of the worst. Probably is the least explosive back in the NFL, that got 135 plus touches last season.
Yeah.
Um, their O line was 31st in run block win rate and 25th in run blocking grade, so that doesn't help. But realistically, I don't expect their O line being better to drastically change any of those numbers that we just rattled off about Joe Mixon. People
I'm
had
right.
him as a fucking top 10 running back in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean that's an overstatement for sure. Um, Storylines with this team, obviously the offensive line, and then some injuries. Tank Dell had a scary injury. He's going to be out all of this season as well. Unfortunately, he'll probably just never really play football the way that he was ever again. I mean, unless if he comes back and has like some sort of like crazy resurgence, but he felt like a little bit of a bubble guy to begin with, even though he had like a decent rookie year. But yeah, I think that sucks. I mean, he had a tough go at it to start his career. Like he got shot in the leg and then he snapped his leg in two pretty much. I mean, that just sucks. And then Stephon Diggs ACL. And like I said, this offensive line, 52 sacks. That was third in the entire NFL. So this team just struggled with injuries. I mean, Nico Collins was in and out of the lineup, and then
He was injured from week 5 until week 11, and then Joe Mixon was gone from week 2 to week 6.
yeah, I mean, it's just guys in and out of the lineup constantly. And then I want to talk about the fall. I wanted to go back and look, but I didn't do it and put it into this video. But if you maybe you could vouch for me, and if you don't remember, it's fine. I absolutely called the Bobby Slowick fall off. I was like, this dude stinks. I hate the way that he calls his plays, and he is not going to be a head coach anywhere. When he was taking last year, he was taking head coaching interviews, and then a
Yeah.
season later, he's fired. Like what
We
an
laid into him pretty
absolute
well for that.
yeah, and like what an absolute fall from grace for him. Um, I think a lot of issues that they had with their team was just on first down. The types of play calls that they were calling was then putting them at second and long, and then third and long, and then like I said, trying to constantly have CJ Stroud bail you out. I think he does a good job of that. Like I do. You have to give the tip of the cap to CJ Stroud, but at some point, like you're quarterback who's in his second year, you got to make some things easy for him. And I think that's ultimately why we watched Slowick walk out of the door this past season.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, CJ Stroud got worse this year. But as a somebody that is trying to look at this objectively, he dealt with the worst offensive line in the NFL. And I when one guy got healthy, another guy went down. So like they were just constantly dealing with injuries on the offensive side of the football this past season. So I'm not necessarily going to hold it against him too much.
No,
Um,
not at all.
but you hit the nail on the head. As an OC, you've got to make it easier for your quarterback, as easy as you possibly can. Because I think CJ Stroud's really good. And
Yeah.
when he's got weapons and he's got an average offensive line, um,
He
He can
doesn't
go
even
out
need
and
weapons.
and win you football games.
He doesn't even need that. He really does. I mean, he proved all season last year. He doesn't need any of that. He is just a natural elevator of an offense. Like, he's that good. And he took this team, took them to the playoffs with his top guys constantly rotating in and out of the lineup, a terrible O-line. We obviously highlighted the great defense, but you have to highlight CJ Stroud. He's the man. He's that guy. And what he was asked to do last season as a second-year quarterback, not that many people get asked to do. And I feel like he stepped up and delivered on that. He's won 2 playoff games in his career so far. He's extremely good. If you could just, I don't think he needs top-tier talent on the offensive side of the football. And I say that because obviously Nico Collins has had a massive surge onto the scene, but I mean, he was a 4th, 5th round draft pick. I can't remember off the top of my head. Tank Dell was taken in the 2nd round, and he had him looking really good. All of these guys who are his cast, it's not like he has Jamar Chase. Like, he has guys who aren't regarded as Nico Collins is now once CJ Stroud got to the team. But the rest of the guys, they're just pedestrian, it feels like, and he's gotten the most out of Nico Collins. So I don't think that even he needs top end talent on the offensive side of the football. Just give the guy a second and don't give up 52 sacks in a season and Laramie Tunsil jumping off sides 100 times. And you probably have a little bit better of a season than you had this year instead of constantly putting CJ Stroud in difficult situations. So I did want to highlight that. CJ's really, really good. I think that last year, everybody was extremely high on him. And now that he had the season, people are kind of cooling off. I think after last season, I feel the exact same way about him as I did. I feel like better than I did about him after his rookie year because he's proven that he's that guy and can continue to win football games even when the situation's not at its best, and then even go and win a playoff game even when the situation is not at its best. So CJ Stroud is going to be probably really, really good for a long time.
I have a good list here for you. So since 2000, this is the list of quarterbacks that have led their teams to back-to-back wins to start their career. Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, Andy Dalton, Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, CJ Stroud. A lot of those guys like inherited pretty decent teams. CJ Stroud absolutely did not. When he got there, they were 3-14.
They were a train wreck when he got
13. And he's completely turned them around. They've won 10 games back-to-back years.
Won the division back-to-back years too.
Won the division back-to-back years. And I know we just rattled off like a ton of negatives for this Texans team. They still went out and won 10 games, and I think that that's just a testament to CJ Stroud and how good the defense was. The combination of those two.
Yeah, this defense is gross. So, yeah, shout out to them. Yeah, I'm not down on this Texans team at all. I mean, they're good. I mean, I just think CJ is just that good. I mean, it's not. It might be one of those situations where he'll need like somebody to like really step up, and so he can have like that coming out party where he could lead the league and maybe like touchdown passes or something like that. But I think that like what he does on a play-to-play basis like isn't going to show up on the stat sheet. He's just fire. So
what he just needs is an average offensive line and an average group of skill players.
Please get him an offensive line, please. The 2025 offseason, they traded Laramie Tunsil. Diggs is out the door. That's really all I had. Did they do anything else that I'm missing? They obviously added Nick Chubb. Did anybody else walk out the door for them?
Walk out the door of significance. Jeff Okudah. That's the only other name here that I wrote down. That's like a name that people would know.
Yeah, he stinks. Additions: Nick Chubb. Again, not too big on that. Christian Kirk, they traded for him. CJ Gardner-Johnson, who is actually injured right now, but it seems like it shouldn't be as bad as people thought. I love the C. Kirk addition. I know that I've been high on him. I've hung out with him a few times. He's a good dude, so I might be like overinflating it a good bit, but if he's healthy, which his injuries are weird mishaps. Like, honestly, like he landed and like snapped his clavicle. Like, that's just unlucky. And then he landed last year and twisted his nuts and missed like a significant chunk of the season. Like, it's just like bad luck. Like, that's bad luck. Like, if you twist your nuts and have like testicular coercion or whatever the hell
I'm
it's
doing
called.
it right now.
Yeah, nice. And like, that's just unlucky. So if Seekirk can stay healthy, I think that his connection with CJ Stroud could be like almost undervalued at this point. Like in fantasy drafts, hey, I know Brady listens to some of these. Hopefully he doesn't listen to this one, because I'm targeting he goes like almost undrafted Christian Kirk in redraft leagues. I'm doing all these mocks right now. That's ridiculous. He could be an 800 to 900 yard receiver this season with CJ Stroud at the helm. So I think that that's crazy that he is pretty much going undrafted with this Texans team.
We lost him.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you said it's
What's the
crazy
last?
that he's going crazy that Seekirk's been going undrafted.
That's the last thing you heard me say?
Yeah, in these mock drafts.
Oh my God. I've been talking for like 10 minutes. So I'm targeting him in all my late rounds. And I think that the reason that he's going so late in fantasy is because the newer versions of what they did in this draft, which I didn't love what they did in this 2025 draft. I texted you this as it was going on, and you guys kind of like threw cold water on it a little bit and were like, what are you talking about? But they traded back in the first round, which revisionist history now. If Josh Simmons is really good, if you traded out of the first round and you needed a left tackle, you look like a dumbass. Like plain flat and simple. He was there for the taking. You should have taken him. They trade back in the second round. They take Jaden Higgins. And then in the second, they take Amonte Iseri, who is the tackle from Minnesota, which I thought he was really good. I thought that he was going to be a first round pick. It didn't turn out that way. He fell to the second. Maybe he's still extremely good. I don't really know yet. We would have to kind of watch that play out.
I think he's going to be more of like a project guy as of right now. I think he'll be like a guy he'll sit for a year.
Which is that's not what they need.
No, because the guys that they brought in this offseason are names. They brought Cam Robinson and they brought in Trent Brown. And both of those guys suck. So
no.
I know that they tried to address their offensive line by bringing in new guys. Hopefully it works, but the track record of some of these guys that they brought in has not been great. So maybe Ursary ends up playing sooner than we expect. And maybe CJ Stroud sees something in practice. It's like, hey, get this guy the hell in there at left tackle because Cam Robinson's not good. And Trent Brown's also really bad. So they're trying to improve maybe this offensive line by bringing in new guys. Like, hey, this didn't go well last year. Let's get you all out of here. But I just don't love either one of those guys that they brought in free agency.
I'm with you. And then in the third, they take Jalen Nolan. It's interesting because Jaden Higgins is 6'4", 215, and Jalen Noel is 5'11", 201. And quite literally, Jaden Higgins' game reminds me identically to Nico Collins, and Jalen Noel's game reminds me identical to Christian Kirk. So I just feel like they doubled
overlap
up
in style.
I feel like they doubled up on receiver when they just like didn't really have to. And if I get it, if things change and if it was in the third round and Jalen Noel was still there and you were like, that guy's really high on our board, like we need to go grab him. I just feel like how weak this group was on offense from like the trenches standpoint. I think you should have tried to take as many dart throws as possible at the offensive line at this point. like you said, those names that you just rung off that they brought in during free agency, those guys haven't been good in a really long time. There is a reason why they keep bouncing all over the league, because they're a good, like, serviceable throw in to kind of like have a guy in there as like a traffic cone who can kind of play the position at like
They're a
an
warm
above.
body.
Yeah. Like, but I don't love what they did here at all. They did take Woody Marks, the running back, as well in the fourth, but we talked a lot about how many talented running backs were going like in the second round, first, second round. There's some really big time guys. I don't know if Woody Marks, just watching him in college, is going to be somebody who you can rely on like a 3-down back type of dude. And
No,
I felt like,
he's more of like a receiving back as of right now.
yeah, and I felt like the two positions that they needed to address most in this upcoming draft was offensive line and running back. And then honestly, at this point, if D'Amico wants somebody on defense, you let D'Amico have that guy on defense, because this defense is so good. So I just don't really love that they have did the same thing and have like the same prototype pretty much at receiver back to back. I just felt like it was a little bit of redundant doing that this offseason.
I mean, I think they needed another wide receiver for this group.
Why?
But because Tank Dell is dead, Nico Collins is pretty much their only receiver. Didn't they sign Christian Kirk after the draft?
You signed Nico. They have Nico. They traded for Christian Kirk. They traded for John Mechie. That
guy's not going to play.
They signed Justin Watson. They have Xavier Hutchinson, who played for them. I mean, they're not going to play now because they drafted 2 wide receivers in front of them. Like, but
and they've just been. It feels Xavier like the health of these guys hasn't been great. So
John Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson both played last season for them and were not terrible. And Justin Watson played many meaningful snaps for the Chiefs and wasn't terrible either. So I feel like that, like I said, offensive line was really bad. As of right now, Heresy is starting at the right tackle for them. But
good.
I don't think that I didn't look at their roster being like, damn, they really need to address these pass catchers in any way, shape, or form. They still have Dalton Schultz. They still had Nico Collins, and they traded for Christian Kirk. I don't think that was a position of need for them in any way, shape, or form.
I don't know if they needed to, but I don't hate them getting another guy in that room just because of the lack of snaps throughout the rest of the room. And Christian Kirk's coming off an injury. Nico Collins missed some time. So and Tank Dell obviously snapped his leg in half. So they have Nico Collins had some injuries, Christian Kirk injured. Like there's some injuries in that room. And I don't
going into the season though, all of these guys are healthy. Coming up to week 1, all of these guys.
I know, but they're probably covering their bases here on okay, what happens if one of these guys does go down? Then we have some insurance. Because they were just so unlucky with these injuries with these guys last year. Stephon Diggs, obviously he's not there, but he missed the rest of the season after week 9. So I get it. I don't know if they needed to bring 2 in. I like them taking the kid from Minnesota. Do you think, how many offensive linemen do you think they should have tried to draft here?
5.
All right, fair.
You sit here, everybody sits here and freaked out when the Chargers took Joe Alt last year. Now, what's his name goes down? Rashawn Slater goes down. Joe Alt slides right into that left tackle situation, and their offensive line is obviously worse because Rashawn Slater is a really good football player, but they still have an extremely high-end option. This team gave up 52 sacks last season. That is something that, when you were going into, I felt like what they did at the wide receiver position in the offseason by trading for a Christian Kirk, signing a Justin Watson, addresses that room. Then when you go into the draft, your goal at that point, for me, like you said, Cam Robinson, like, I don't really want him to play as my left tackle. He hasn't been good.
No.
He wasn't good in Jacksonville. He wasn't good in Minnesota. He's not going to be good in Houston. I guarantee it. So, like I said, I just feel like how bad this offensive line was last year. I felt like not five, but I feel like the top two picks that you took in this draft should have been offensive line. And then when you look back at it, and they had the 26th pick, if the guy who the Chiefs took, Josh Simmons, the left tackle from Ohio State, if he turns out to be a dude, which it's sounding like he could potentially be a dude, that's an L. Like, that was an opportunity to shore up that left tackle position with an Ohio State guy who Ohio State linemen have a pretty good track record in the NFL.
I'm holding off on any conversations about Josh Simmons until the regular season starts, because I'm not going to come in and trust that guy necessarily right away. I've been hearing the same things that you have, that he's been
completely fair, but as of now,
but I get your point.
Starting left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, and there has been glowing reports about him the entire training camp, pretty much, that he's a dog.
So what ends up happening though, if Jaden Higgins is really good and Ursary is really good at right tackle,
good for them. Then they nailed two draft picks.
Then you can't necessarily get mad at the not having Josh Simons.
I don't know. I think that probably, if we're revisionist history as of right now, like looking back on it, the only thing that should have been in their head in this draft was to draft a left tackle, and they did not do that. So that's it. That's completely fair, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that they just needed to address any spot on this offensive line, and I think they did that. Obviously, I think you weren't being serious when you said drafting 5 offensive linemen, but
no.
2 to 3 probably is a fair number.
You know that I am very, like,
I know, exactly.
We watch no, not exaggerating. Like, I am out on like you don't need you don't need a stacked wide receiver room to go and win football games. You just don't. Look at the Chiefs last season. They were in the Super Bowl. Look at the Eagles. Although that they have 2 extremely high-end options at the wide receiver position, they're one of the worst teams at throwing the football in the entire league. It is not like a prominent thing to have an absolutely stacked wide receiving core. And I've been saying this for like 3 years at this point, since we started doing this. It's easily the most overhyped position that people fixate on year in and year out. Like, you don't need a stacked wide receiving core. If you go through the teams who made the playoffs last season, a lot of their teams don't have stacked wide receiving cores. It's just not as important as it's made out to be.
But you need guys that are healthy, and Christian Kirk's been injured. Nico Collins has been injured. So
but they're healthy as of right now. Correct?
Yes.
Are they healthy right now? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So stop saying that. That has nothing to do with anything.
It does.
It has nothing to do with that. You could say that about every team in the NFL. Be like, well, like, if that guy didn't stay healthy, like, if they're not going to stay healthy.
We just harped about Matt Stafford being hurt in his past for how many times. Like, that certainly plays a role moving forward.
But Nico Collins being banged up with a hamstring, and Matt Stafford's spinal cord being
I know it's different, but you get my point. Is like, injury
is completely different.
But it still matters. Matt
Stafford
end of the day.
has like a injury that could like have him in a wheelchair. Like, Nico Collins being banged up and fucking Christian Kirk having his nuts twisted into 2 is completely different.
You get my point, though, is that it does matter. I picked the most extreme example, but injuries matter.
Obviously, injuries matter, but as of right now, the only injury that you should be talking about, if you want to talk about injuries, is talk about the Joe Mixon injury, because the guys that you're talking about are completely healthy.
Well, Joe Mixon sucks. I don't care about him.
But Joe Mixon is in a boot
on the field.
But Joe Mixon's in a boot. Okay, that's a good. Then there you go. Good take. That
they're better without Joe Mixon.
You bringing up the hypothetical that they are both healthy right now. If that changes, then I will apologize to you. But right now, those guys are both healthy.
I hope they are. I hope they stay healthy. I hope they play all 17 games and then however many playoff games.
Love it. All right, let's move on to some of the Vegas stuff here. That was awesome, by the way. That's some good back and forth. The Vegas win total that they have right there is at 9.5. For them to win the AFC South is plus 110. The playoffs minus 140. To win the AFC plus 1500. To win the Super Bowl plus 3500. I think this defense is really high end, and I think it could get them to a lot of places that they need to be. I don't think this team's a Super Bowl team in any way, shape, or form as constructed currently.
Not yet.
O-line's too weak. The running game's way too weak. So, yeah, that's all I really.
If they come out and surprise us with the offensive line and they're 15th on average rather than 30th on average, then that's a different discussion. But that's like the real only. I mean, it's obviously a big flaw, but like that's the real flaw of this team is the offensive line.
I think that there's a lot of flaws on this team. I mean, we said
we don't know what we're getting to for a full season of an offensive coordinator too. I think that's important. Got
a brand new offensive coordinator. This was a 25th passing offense. This was a 27th rushing offense. This was a bottom like quartile of the league type of offense last season, and for them to have the type of success that everybody has in their heads where they definitively win the South, where they definitively like have the success that people think that they're going to have. But you look at their teams that they played last year, it was bad. I mean, their division was a legitimate wreck. They obviously, the Jacksonville Jaguars had their fair share of injuries. Trevor Lawrence missed a big part of the year. The Tennessee Titans they were abysmal with their quarterback position. They had the first overall pick in the entire NFL. And then the Colts, I don't think they're going to be much better this season, but the Colts are a train wreck as well. So you're telling me that in a train wreck of a division, you went out and only won 10 games, and how bad that division was last season. Obviously, that's something to keep in mind as well when you have Jacksonville, who should be more healthy this year. I think that as we're doing this, and we haven't done we're way far down the line until we hit the Titans, but I feel like the Titans are a little bit slept on going into this season a little bit, where they have a decent infrastructure where they've been building the offensive line over the past few years. They've been getting guys in free agency at the wide receiver position. They've been getting guys in the secondary and the defensive line on defense. I'm not saying that they're going to be a playoff team, but could they steal a game from the Texans this year? Potentially. So as long as they're like this division, if those two teams that I said, I think the Colts are going to stink, but I think that those two teams could be a lot better than what they were last year. So I do see them hovering around like that 9-win mark. I wouldn't go over 9 wins though. It's dicey with this team. Although I do think that their defense will be one of the best in the NFL.
So I actually have them at 11-6 this season.
Okay.
I think they'll be a game better. I'm banking on this offensive line just being league average. And I don't think they're going to go through the same injury issues from a skill perspective that they did last year. I think the defense is phenomenal. We've talked about that thoroughly. I agree with you. I think the rest of their division will be better, but I just can't see I'm just banking on this offensive line being better. And I think if this offensive line plays at a league average, then they can go out and win 11 games. They won 10 with the worst offensive line and a terrible run game. I think if they slightly improve both of those, I think they can be an 11-win team. I mean, they came down to the wire too. Like they were close with the Chiefs in that playoff game. A couple calls here and there, but they were right there with them toe to toe. Now, is that more of a indictment on the Texans being better team, or was that an indictment of the Chiefs being worse than their record displayed? Probably the Chiefs being worse than what their record displayed, but either way, you win 10 games and you have the flaws that they had last year. I think if you can play a little bit better, then I think they can win 11.
I do want to just like pump the brakes on this a little bit for you, and just to rethink some things. Obviously, they obviously have some quality wins throughout the course of the season as well, and some of their losses. They lost to Minnesota 34-7.
Yeah,
they lost to Green Bay 24-22. They lost to the New York Jets 21-13. They lost to the Detroit Lions 26-23. They lost to the Tennessee Titans 32-27. Lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in the regular season, and then they lost to the Baltimore Ravens 31-2. I mean, just something to think about, obviously, when you're doing this. They lost. I mean, one, they got railroaded by the Baltimore Ravens, which it seems like they have their number, but they did also drop games against the dumpster fire that is the Tennessee Titans, the dumpster fire that is the Jets, and those two games, you look back on it, you probably feel like they should have won those games.
Oh yeah, both of those teams were bad, but this is I'm staying strong on this 11 wins. I like CJ Stroud a lot. I think if they can stay healthy, that he's going to carry them to 11 wins.
So 3 straight seasons of them winning the division.
Didn't say that.
Okay. So you're handing out big win totals in the South. I'm just trying to get your.
Well, I don't want to give it away.
You're not giving it away. I'm sitting here thinking 11 wins for them in the South. Then what do you have the Jacksonville Jaguars winning 13 games?
Stick around for the Jags preview. You'll find out.
That's crazy. Hey, that should piss off Texans fans more than me picking them to win 9 games. So keep that in mind, Texans fans, if you get pissed at me.
But Texans fans, you got to tune into the Jags episode then, because I never said how many wins I think they're gonna have.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I have, boss. So.
I just spit it. Good girl, we're getting paper as a passion. Collect the stacks and bring it back, man, and take vision.